Hello everyone. In this presentation, I will focus only on rehabilitation aspect of multiple sclerosis and about etiopathogenesis, diagnosis and pharmacological management of multiple sclerosis we'll discuss in another presentation. Physical activity. Rehabilitation is an important component of the management of patients with multiple sclerosis because PMR physicians face with serious challenges when attempting to apply rehabilitative interventions to multiple sclerosis patients. Multiple sclerosis is a progressive neurological disease which does not follow the traditional model of rehabilitation like other diseases. Actually, best timing for rehabilitation is not well defined. Usually, patients are referred late, maybe due to lack of awareness and also some financial issues. So impairment are fixed and opportunities or chances for functional improvement are limited. Earlier, patients with multiple sclerosis advised to not exercise for fear of worsening disease symptoms due to overheating, and in recent multiple studies have demonstrated the safety and benefit of exercise in multiple sclerosis. Physical activity improve aerobic fitness, quality of life and overall. The Canadian Physical Activity Guideline for adults with multiple sclerosis. Here we will differentiate between the aerobic activity and strength training activity. First is the how often. So aerobic activity and strength training activity should be advised 2 times per week. And one thing you should remember, aerobic and strength training activity can be done on the same day and given rest to the patient for at least 1 day between the strength training session. And how much aerobic activity should be gradually increased so that the patient able to do at least 30 minutes of aerobic activity during each workout session. And in the strength training activity, repetition 10 to 15 repetitions should be for each exercise. This counts as one set and gradually work up to doing 2 sets of each exercise. And how hard these exercises should be. In aerobic activity, intensity of the physical activity should be moderate and is usually 5 or 6 on a scale of 10. As a general rule, if you are doing moderate intensity activity, you can talk but not sing a song during the activity. For strength training activity, resistance for a patient can use free weight, cable pulley, bands, etc. These are heavy enough that patient can barely but safely finish 10 to 15 repetition of the last set, and rest should be advised 1 to 2 minutes between each set and exercise. And how to we have to advise upper body exercise and lower body exercise differently. In the aerobic activity, upper body exercise, there is arm cycling. Lower body exercise, there is a walking and leg cycling. For combined upper and lower body exercise, there is a elliptical trainer. In the strength training activity, for upper and lower body activity, there is a weight machine, free weights and cable pulleys. Other type of exercises that may bring benefit, that is elastic resistance bands, aquatic exercise, calisthenics. There is example like pull-ups, chin-ups, dips, squats, crunches, etc. Gait impairment. Approximately 75% patients with multiple sclerosis have mobility challenges, and 50% of patients with multiple sclerosis who have had the onset of gait impairment will require an assistive device 15 years after the diagnosis. Gait impairment may increase the risk of the weakness, spasticity, contracture, bone mineral density, cardiovascular diseases, and also can reduce quality of life. The time 25 foot walk test is used to measure the walking speed in multiple sclerosis. In this test, patient instructed walk straight from one point and return to the same point, and time taken should be less than 5 minutes. A 20% change in walking speed is considered significant and clinically meaningful. Other tests are 2 and 6 minute walking tests can also be used. These tests take longer to administer, but additional information such as fatigue resistance or sensitivity, speed, heart rate monitoring, and endurance may be obtained. Tablet dalfampridine was approved for the use of patients with multiple sclerosis with walking impairment in 2010. Dalfampridine is given at a dose of 10 mg every 12 hourly. If a patient having history of the seizure is an absolute contraindication because dalfampridine lowers the seizure threshold. Disease-specific outcome measures for multiple sclerosis rehabilitation. Barthel index and functional independence measures can be applied to MS patients. However, these measures are often not sufficient because they do not cover specific aspects of the disease like fatigue, visual disturbances, etc. So here many disease specific instruments available, although often not developed and validated in a rehabilitation setting, but it can be useful in clinical practice and in the research setting. Here we will discuss only one status scale, which is the Expanded Disability Status Scale, also called EDSS. Is ranging from 0. 0 is showing patient having no impairment, and if patient score is 10 is showing death. So it is based on a detailed neurological examination and includes functional system. If an EDSS score is less than 4 or equal to 4 implies minimal disability with no ambulation restriction. If an EDSS score is more than 6 or equal to 6 signifies ambulation with the use of an assistive device. If an EDSS score is more than 8, it signifies a person who is essentially bedbound. The EDSS is one of the most widely used scale in multiple sclerosis patient. There are multiple symptoms in multiple sclerosis which affecting patients like fatigue, bladder dysfunction, spasticity, heat intolerance, pain, paresthesias, etc. So we have to understand how to tackle the symptoms of the patients. We will discuss here one by one. First is heat intolerance. Heat intolerance is a well-established symptoms. There is a transient loss of vision or blurred vision after a hot bath or exercise is common. Demyelination is the main culprit of the heat intolerance. Here is the normal conduction. You are showing normal saltatory conduction. Heat causes alteration of the sodium channel, and excess efflux of the potassium from potassium channel leads to hyperpolarization and altered saltatory conduction. Reduction in conduction velocity, amplitude finally leads to conduction loss. So this leads to worsening of the symptoms and decreased participation of patient in rehabilitation. One is a Euthoff phenomena is given by an American ophthalmologist. He observed that due to increased heat in his patients of optic neuritis, decreased vision which was temporary. So this incident also occurs in MS patient, and increased temperature causes increased worsening of symptoms like fatigue, decreased vision, weakness, etc. The hot bath test was used before the availability of MRI to diagnose MS patients. In these patients were immersed in warm water ranging from 35 degrees centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade and observed for worsening of the symptoms, but now this was discontinued because that can cause irreversible damage to patients. Now advice. First and most important advice for avoidance of warm baths: water temperature should not be greater than 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Pre-cooling with an ice water can also be used. Patients should stay in cool environment. Here also dalfampridine can be helpful. This drug can also be used in MS patient. This drug act on potassium channel and block them. Some health professional also advise for do not exercise, but this was discouraged because exercise is the important part of rehabilitation and also having role in the long-term benefit. Here you can see the mechanism of action of dalfampridine is the extended release version of 4-aminopyridine, which is a potassium channel agonist and potentiate action potential promoting nerve signal transmission. Next symptom is fatigue. Fatigue is the most common symptom and mostly occur in afternoon and is associated with limited activity. commonly described as a reversible motor and cognitive impairment with reduced motivation and desire to rest. Fatigue may be divided into two parts, peripheral and central. Peripheral is a generalized sense of exhaustion after a few minutes of physical activity and is subsided with that rest, while central fatigue is subjective and is associated with dysfunction in arousal and attention. So, central fatigue impact on function, quality of life, relationships, and occupation. Fatigue can also be classified as a primary and secondary. Primary fatigue is due to the disease itself, and secondary fatigue is due to other causes like metabolic, endocrine, hematological, and medication side effect. Fatigue severity scale and modified impact scale are used to find the outcome of disease. These are self-reported scale. Now first is fatigue severity scale having 9 items in the form of question, and for every question you ask the patient strongly agree or strongly disagree. For strongly disagree give 1 point, and for strongly agree give 7, and for 2 to 6 point given according to patient answer. Range 9 to 35 showing normal score, and above 35 showing high degree of fatigue. Next is modified fatigue impact scale is actually an extended version with 21 points and 40 sub-points. This scale having 3 sub-scale: physical, cognitive and psychological. Score ranging from 0 to 89. We should proper assess and evaluate to manage the symptoms and also discover the contributing factor, which may be any medications, maybe poor sleep, maybe depression, any infection or any thyroid infection. Now next is advice. We should decide proper timing of activities when patients are more active and avoid afternoon time. Rest periods should be given and use of assistive devices for decreased energy demands. Yoga can also be advised for at least 6 months. If we talk about drug, then amantadine may be beneficial in multiple sclerosis associated fatigue, which is an antiviral drug, and dose is 100 mg/d. In some article, modafinil and aspirin also having positive results. Next is sleep disturbances. Most of the patient having difficulty in sleep initiation and early morning awakening, and only 10% having insomnia. Spasticity, paresthesias, nocturia, and some drug like interferon induce myalgia, interfere sleep. We should encourage sleep promoting behavior such as avoiding eating, drinking, watching television, or even reading on bed. Patients have demonstrated benefit with guided imagery, biofeedback, cognitive behavioral therapy, and meditation practice. Treatment agents include zolpidem, trazodone, benzodiazepine, sedating antidepressants, and antihistaminics. Some patients having obstructive sleep apnea and central sleep apnea, for this polysomnogram testing is advised. Treatment may include weight loss, tobacco cessation, respiratory supports with continuous positive airway pressure, or surgery. Besides these, restless leg syndrome and periodic limb movement disorder may also present. Patients with RLS typically report an inability to keep their legs still, and periodic limb movement disorder typically manifests while sleeping and are involuntary movements. PLMD is quantified and confirmed via polysomnographic testing, and treatment for both RLS or PLMD include dopaminergic agents, benzodiazepine, and anticonvulsants. Next symptom is depression. The most common mood disorder in multiple sclerosis is depression, and present in half of the patients. Some symptoms like fatigue, poor concentration, sleepiness, and appetite disturbances found in both MS and depression. So depression is underdiagnosed or it may be late diagnosed in MS. Depression has negative implications on quality of life and an increased risk of suicide. The Beck Depression Inventory and the Beck Depression Inventory Fast Screen is validated scale to screen for depression. Both are patient reported scale. The BDI has 21 items and the BDI-FS has 7 items. Limited studies are available regarding pharmacological treatment of depression in MS, but paroxetine, bupropion can be used. Apart from this, behavioral interventions such as counseling having important role in depression. Next symptom is spasticity, defined as a velocity dependent increase in stretch reflexes and decreased motor performance. Almost 85% patient affected by spasticity. Spasticity should be screened routinely for every patient who have visited in with disease of multiple sclerosis. In this, we have to evaluate patient strength, range of motion, deep tendon reflexes, and muscle tone. Also, we have to evaluate gait pattern or intrinsic hand muscle condition. There are many tools are available to assess the spasticity. First is Ashworth scale. Ashworth scale was given by Ashworth in 1964. In this, there is a 5 grade including 0. In 0, there is no increase in tone. In 1, slight increase in tone, giving a catch when the limb is moved in flexion or extension. And in grade 2, more marked increase in tone but limb easily flexed. In grade 3, considerable increase in tone, passive movement is difficult. And in grade 4, limb rigid in flexion or extension. Now next is modified Ashworth. Modified Ashworth and modified Ashworth scale. In both there is a grading system in modified Ashworth scale 0, 1, 1 plus 2, 3, 4 and modified Ashworth scale 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The main difference in the both scale, there is a what number you are giving, but description point are same according to the order. There is a first is a no increase in muscle tone. Next is slight increase in muscle tone manifested by a catch and release. Next is slight increase in muscle tone manifested by a catch followed by minimal resistance. Next is more marked increase in muscle tone but affected parts can easily be moved. And next is considerable increase in muscle tone, passive movement difficult, and lastly affected parts rigid in flexion or extension. Next is a Tardieu scale. In Tardieu scale we have to measure differently. There is a quality of muscle relaxation or angle of muscle relaxation. Quality of muscle relaxation having 5 point. In 0 there is no resistance throughout the passive movement. In 1 slight resistance throughout with no catch. Clear catch means you can't measure the angle. In second number, clear catch at a precise angle followed by release. 3 is a fatigable clonus less than 10 seconds occurring at a precise angle. And 4 is unfatigable clonus more than 10 seconds occurring at a precise angle. And 5 there is a joint immobile. Next is we have to evaluate 3 types of velocity. What are these? V1 as slow as possible. V2 in this speed of the limb segment falling due to the gravity, and V3 as fast as possible. In the last, we have to evaluate the spasticity angle. R1 angle of catch seen at velocity V2 or V3, and R2 full range of motion achieved when muscle is at rest and tested at V1 velocity. A large difference between R1 and R2 values indicate large dynamic component, and a small difference in the R1 and R2 measurement indicate predominantly fixed contracture. Next is the pain spasm frequency scale. Pain spasm frequency scale having 5 points including 0. In 0 there is no spasm. 1 spasm induced only by stimulation. In 2 spasm occurring less than once per hour. In 3 spasm occurring between 1 and 10 times per hour. And in 4 spasm occurring more than 10 times per hour. Next is the time up and go test. In this we tell the patient to sit on a chair and command him to stand up, walk 3 meters, turns around back to chair. If patient take time more than 14 seconds, that means the patient is high risk for a fall. In this test, patient can be use assistive devices, but it should be mentioned. Next is the T25 foot walk test. I already discussed in earlier slides. And there is a ambulation index and multiple sclerosis spasticity scale are additional the clinical settings. The MS spasticity scale has been validated for the use in patient with multiple sclerosis and having 88 items self-reported scale. Both physical and occupational therapy is helpful in early stages and as adjunctive treatment to supplement oral injected and intrathecal medication. Oral baclofen is the usual first line oral agent. Tizanidine may be limited given because it's having sedating side effects. Clonazepam is helpful in cases of the periodic limb movement disorder or nighttime spasm. American Academy of Neurology in their guideline told that oral cannabis can also be used and it can beneficial in spasticity, pain, muscle spasm and sleep disorder. Apart from this, chemodenervation with botulinum toxin injection can be used. Intrathecal baclofen therapy via an implanted drug delivery device is indicated when oral or injectable treatment becomes ineffective. Phenol injection or surgical intervention may be used in patients with severe mobility or contracture and have failed conservative therapy. Sedation is a major side effect of antispasticity medication. Next symptom is pain. Pain may be neuropathic or nociceptive type of the pain. Pain negatively impacts mood, energy, daily activities, vocation, social interaction, and has been linked with the reduced quality of life. Sometimes patient may complain of pain at injection site associated with disease modifying therapy. To avoid this should be used topical anesthetic agent followed by cooling packs. Injection site rotation may be helpful. Neuropathic pain has a prevalence of 50% in MS due to plaque in the CNS which causes allodynia and hyperalgesia. Treatment of neuropathic pain include gabapentin, pregabalin, the tricyclic antidepressants class. SSRI may also be used to treat neuropathic pain. Patients who are unable to tolerate the side effect of oral medications may consider for intrathecal therapy via an implanted drug delivery device like morphine and ziconotide can be used with slow titration. Next is trigeminal neuralgia found in 2 to 6% patient. It can be divided in two parts. Primary trigeminal neuralgia and is due to focal compression of the trigeminal nerve root near its entry at the pons, and symptomatic trigeminal neuralgia is due to the demyelinating plaques posterior fossa. Patient complaint electrical spark like sensation which may be associated with pain and tactile sensation. Treatment of trigeminal neuralgia is carbamazepine, gabapentin, lamotrigine and topiramate. Misoprostol, a prostaglandin E, can be effective in trigeminal neuralgia. Retro and periorbital pain is due to inflammation aggravated or triggered by eye movement, often occur in optic neuritis and is usually improved with the corticosteroids, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents. Back pain, neck pain, upper and lower extremity pain of musculoskeletal should not be neglected because it represents a source of added disability, discomfort and medical complications. Next is Lhermitte sign, is an electrical sensation that occurs down the length of the spine and is exacerbated with neck flexion. This is typically self-limited. Finally, there is a MS hug is described by patient as a feeling of tightness across their ribs as if they were being hugged very tightly. Treatment of MS hug including anticonvulsants or topical compound mixture of anticonvulsants and lidocaine are suggested. This is bladder dysfunction. Bladder dysfunction affects up to 90% of multiple sclerosis patients and correlate with disease severity and disability. But this disorder is not associated with disease duration. Urinary symptoms affect daily activities, employment, social life and quality of life in general. And the disorder of there is 3 types of disorder of the emptying. In this incomplete emptying, slow or intermittent stream, disorder of storage, urinary urgency, frequency, nocturia, incontinence, or a mixture of both, that is a detrusor sphincter dyssynergia. So we have to work up for neurological bladder dysfunction usually includes urine analysis and urine culture, post-voiding residual volume measurement, and urodynamic study. Renal ultrasound and other upper urinary tract imaging study may also be advised. Okay. Now we have to advise the patient there is bladder hygiene, in which we have to advise for adequate fluid intake, avoid bladder stimulants, and the treatment includes there's a pelvic muscle training, Kegel exercises. Detrusor hyperreflexia, most common bladder function disorder in multiple sclerosis, often treated with anticholinergic medications such as hyoscyamin and oxybutynin or tolterodine. More recently released anticholinergic medication trospium chloride, solifenacin, succinate, or derifenacin. Desmopressin acetate, there is nasal spray or in the form of tablet, may be useful in reducing nocturia and enuresis. Alpha-1 selective antagonists like terazosin may improve bladder emptying, and botulinum toxin injection, specifically onabotulinum toxin, is FDA approved for the treatment of detrusor overactivity. This increases bladder capacitance and reduce episodes of urinary incontinence. The benefits have been reported to last up to 8 to 10 months, although injection may be performed every 6 months. Next is a nerve stimulation, has also been evaluated for treating neurogenic bladder disorder. First is a posterior tibial nerve stimulation, involve needle insertion superior and medial to the medial malleolus with stimulation sufficient to induce toe flexion and tingling distal to and including the angle. The procedure is indicated in patients who failed or unable to tolerate conservative treatment for overactive bladder. The session should be given a weekly session for 12 weekly session, and in per session there is a 30-minute sitting. Posterior tibial nerve stimulation can reduce urinary incontinence, urgency, frequency, and number of incontinence. Exact mechanism of action is unknown for posterior tibial nerve stimulation. Next, the sacral nerve stimulation is another option for the treatment of hyperreflexia, urge incontinence, and urgency frequency disorder. And lastly, surgical intervention for urinary retention include the placement of suprapubic catheter, which may be easier to manage than an indwelling Foley's catheter, and incontinent urinary diversion. Next symptom is a bowel dysfunction. Symptoms of the bowel dysfunctions are constipation or fecal incontinence. Patients with multiple sclerosis have reported spending 30+ minutes per day on their bowel regimen. Constipation is believed to be caused by the immobilization or abnormal colonic contractility or abnormal tone. It may be due to the medication side effects. We have to advise the use of probiotics can help both constipation or incontinence. That is, the fiber supplements, bulk forming agent, and stool softener are often other helpful. Anticholinergic medication may help with fecal urgency and incontinence. Next is sexual dysfunction. Sexual dysfunction is present in approximately 42% to 90%, but only few people ask about the sexual dysfunction. In this, men report erectile dysfunction and ejaculatory dysfunction, and women commonly reported decreased libido and loss of lubrication. In both sexes, they face orgasm problems. First is the primary sexual dysfunction is due to CNS demyelination, which causes decrease or loss of the libido. Sexual encounter may be painful, so patient not feel pleasure during sexual intercourse. Sexual dysfunction is due to neurogenic bladder. Secondary sexual dysfunction is due to neurogenic bladder or bowel symptoms, spasticity, tremor, or immobility, so patient unable to perform sexual activity. In tertiary sexual dysfunction, there is a psychological impact of patient life due to the MS. Now, screening for sexual dysfunction may be done by intake history during an examination. There is a multiple sclerosis intimacy and sexuality questionnaire is a 19-item questionnaire. This is a patient self-reported scale, and we have to ask about the sexual activity, satisfaction, presence of symptoms or other issue that may interfere with the sexual encounters to find out cause primary, secondary or tertiary. We should ask the patient and discuss about the sexual dysfunction because patient may not be aware of high prevalence of sexual dysfunction in multiple sclerosis. Phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor like sildenafil, vardenafil, and tadalafil are very popular in the treatment of male erectile dysfunction. Other treatment methods include vibratory stimulation, vacuum pump, prostaglandin, even injections and implanted penile prosthesis can be used. Pharmacological treatment in female not helpful except it can cause vaginal lubrication. Next is cognitive impairment. Cognitive impairment may be present at any stage of multiple sclerosis and found in around 40 to 70% of the patient. The impairment in this there is a memory loss, attention deficit, delay processing speed, and difficulty in executive function. Dementia may also be found, but there is a less common in multiple sclerosis. Neuropsychological test. There is the raw, brief, repeatable battery of neuropsychological test and the minimal assessment of cognitive function in multiple sclerosis. Both scale assess working memory, processing speed, new learning, and language. Another is that the paged auditory serial addition test and symbol digit modality test assess processing speed and is one of the most common challenges in patients with the long-standing multiple sclerosis. In MRI, increased cortical atrophy, widening of the third ventricle, and overall loss of brain volume are seen. It is also an indicator of the cognitive impairment. Subcutaneous interferon beta 1a or interferon beta 1b can stabilize or delay the progression of cognitive impairment in person with multiple sclerosis. Methylphenidate and L-amphetamine can improve attention, learning, and ability to focus. Memantine and donepezil used for memory disorder can also be used. Factors that may affect the cognitive impairment include disease duration, multiple sclerosis subtypes, level of disability, and pre-morbid level. There is a positive correlation was found between the cognition and with both education and early life cognitive leisure activities. The treatment of the cognitive behavioral therapy has reduced distress and improved cognitive impairment, improved cognitive performance in several small studies. And another is the acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, which is used in the Alzheimer's disease like donepezil and memantine. This can also be used in MS patient, but although not FDA approved in MS. Next disorder is the swallowing disorder. The dysphagia or difficulty with swallowing in liquids or solid may present at any stage of the multiple sclerosis. Prevalence of dysphagia increases with the increasing disability and disease duration. So there is a thorough screening for dysphagia. Need to localize that what phase of swallowing is affected, and in this the pharyngeal phase is the most commonly affected in multiple sclerosis. Patient may complete the 10-item self-reported assessment screening with dysphagia in multiple sclerosis DYMUS questionnaire to assess their risk for dysphagia and valid to screen both solid and liquid dysphagia. It can also be risk. Can also be risk for the aspiration pneumonia. So videographic swallow study choice for evaluating the presence of silent aspiration. For treating dysphagia with the compensatory strategies is often effective. This includes postural changes, modifying the amount of food bolus consumed, and changing in the food consistency. And lastly, there is a pharyngeal electrical stimulation may be used to treat oropharyngeal dysphagia, and injection botulinum toxin into the cricopharyngeal muscle is effective. Upper esophageal hyperactivity. Next is pseudobulbar effect. Pseudobulbar effect is a disorder of uncontrollable laughter or crying. It can be seen in any clinical illness, but in neurological disorders seen in multiple sclerosis, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, stroke, and traumatic brain injury. Patients who suffer from this may feel socially isolated because of lack of control over their laughing or crying episodes. Pseudobulbar effect should be differentiated from the depression. In the pseudobulbar effect, the duration is brief, whereas in depression, more typically lasts. Mood depressed typically lasts week to month. The Center for Neurological Study Liability Scale is a seven-item self-reported scale to screen for PBA, and it has been validated in both multiple sclerosis and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. The treatment, there is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor and tricyclic antidepressants can be used in these patients, and the combination of dextromethorphan with low dose of quinidine used in PBA, which can be helpful. Next symptom is tremor. Tremor is in MS is often associated with ataxia and may include rest, postural and action components, which is called rubral tremor. Tremor severity and outcome can be measured by Pfan's tremor rating scale. Rehabilitation interventions include the use of assistive devices and technologies, and the wrist weight, which can be difficult to use if weakness and fatigability are present. And the medications which can be used are isoniazid, glutamide, primidone, levetiracetam, carbamazepine, clonazepam, and propranolol. In the severe tremor, there is a thalamotomy or deep brain stimulation can be used. Symptom is a visual impairment. Visual impairment found in 25% patients with multiple sclerosis. There is no treatment for the residual visual loss after the optic neuritis in the multiple sclerosis patient. Night driving may be compromised in these patients, and patient should be undergo yearly eye examination to find out condition amenable to treatment. And the use of steroid may increase the risk of the developing cataract in MS patient. And we have to advise the large print reading materials and computer-based magnification system, which may be helpful in the patients. And for the photophobia, sunglasses may be benefit in the patients. Now one more thing, pediatric multiple sclerosis. According to International Pediatric MS Study Group, pediatric MS can be diagnosed after 2 clinical episodes of CNS demyelination that are separated by at least 30 days. Pediatric MS counts for around 5% of all MS cases. The female-male ratio is around 0.8 to 1. With increasing age, it becomes 3:1, which typically seen in adults. And Epstein-Barr virus seropositivity is more common among pediatric patients with multiple sclerosis. And smoking, including passive smoking, also having high risk of the developing multiple sclerosis. And there is a low vitamin D level also being linked to developing multiple sclerosis. On MRI, there is a typical feature confluent lesion with irregular border found on brainstem and cerebellum. Pediatric patients with multiple sclerosis develop mostly cognitive impairment, and disease-modifying therapy used in children data is limited. However, the approach remains similar to the treatment strategies for the adults. Next is the multiple sclerosis in pregnancy. So patients are often diagnosed in the child-bearing ages, and MS has no little direct effect on pregnancy. Patient can be counseled with the confidence that their disease will not affect their ability to conceive, the safety and health of the pregnancy or fetal being, and there is no increased risk of spontaneous abortion, ectopic pregnancies, cesarean delivery, or major neonatal obstetric complications. Disease activity is markedly reduced during the third trimester, and pregnancy is considered an immune tolerant state. Several biological changes occur during pregnancy that may affect the multiple sclerosis. If we talk about the hormone level increase during pregnancy and then fall dramatically during the postpartum period, including estrogen, progesterone, prolactin, and glucocorticoids. These hormones affect the immune system and help shift cytokine, decrease adhesion molecule and matrix metalloproteinases, decrease antigen presenting, and boost the T regulatory cells. These result in overall decrease in inflammatory process. During pregnancy, there is a concern about the medication use. Typically, disease-modifying therapy should not be used in patients with multiple sclerosis who are pregnant or trying to become pregnant. When needed, there is a glatiramer acetate has the most favorable safety rates. Acute relapses can be treated with a short course of high dose of glucocorticoids as determined by their practitioner. If possible, it is preferable to forego treatment during the first trimester because of the association of the cleft palate and low birth rate. However, corticosteroids are commonly used in the second and third trimester. Prednisolone or methylprednisolone are preferred because they are metabolized to inactive form by the placenta rather than betamethasone or dexamethasone, which cross the placenta with minimal metabolism. We have to advise the patient exclusive breastfeeding may help in the relapse multiple sclerosis activity. It leads to prolonged lactational amenorrhea and ovulation, ovarian suppression, finally prolactin level high, and low luteinizing hormone that may be beneficial. And lastly, there is the intravenous immunoglobulin may reduce the risk of the postpartum relapses. Now, social, vocational and financial management. Similar to many chronic conditions, MS affect the interaction between the patient and the outside world. And as a physiatrist, we should help patients and their families to deal with the social, vocational and economic consequences of disease, disabling conditions. Disease is typically diagnosed in early adulthood when the patient in the process of building the personal and professional relationships, so they're may difficult to adjust plan for life. We should help them to fight this situation. And rehabilitation protocols should be least expensive because disease modifying therapies are expensive, and this may also be depressing to the patient. Summary: in the past decade, there are doubling of treatment options for the patient with multiple sclerosis. The biggest and most impactful effect is that approved for the disease modifying therapy for the multiple sclerosis patient, and diagnosis of MS occurring earlier with accuracy. In these years, patient expectations became increased from us. They want treatment options that will increase their strength and endurance, and also they want from us to help them enhance their quality of life. And what are the role of the physiatrist? We have two therapeutic and symptomatic options for fitness, symptomatic management, and we can effectively educate and guide these patients to that they manage their physical, mental, cognitive challenges. This is a mandala art. This art showing that each person's life is like a mandala, a vast, limitless circle. We stand in the center of our own circle, and everything we see, hear, and think form the mandala of our life. This art is made for MS patient and also dedicated to them. This art posted on official website of Multiple Sclerosis Society of India. World Multiple Sclerosis Day celebrate 30th of May of every year. 2020 to 2022 World's MS Day theme is connection. Connection is all about community connection, self-connection, connection to quality care. There is a social barrier for MS patients. They feel lonely and isolated. Together we advocate for better service, celebrate support network, and champion self-care. Find your MS connection. As my references. Thank you. Please like this video, subscribe my channel, and if you like this video, please share and press the bell icon.